morning. Welcome to Keep This in Mind, brought to you by SpectHealth.com. I am David A. Specht, and it is Monday, the end of July, almost the beginning of August, if you're watching this on replay or listening to this on the podcast. I want to kind of give everybody a little bit of not necessarily a motivational talk today, but a perspective talk. Many of you know that I've been driving for Uber here and there as part of a side hustle, part of a book research, just kind of a little thing that I've been doing. And I love it because it helps me work on my emotional intelligence. It puts me in proximity to people that I would never be in proximity to. But there was one very interesting conversation I had late last week. I picked up a gentleman from a apartment complex and was taking him to pick up his vehicle. And we were driving along, and he was telling me about his situation with his vehicle and what was going on. And it sounded like it was just, life was just piling up one thing on top of another, on top of another. He just wasn't getting going. But he said something. He said, "But that's okay. I know that it's exercising my faith." And I said, "Really? What do you mean by that?" And he said, "I'm a Muslim, but I've been studying the teachings of Christ. And Christ said," or actually he said, "the teachings say the faith without works is dead." He said, "They also say that if you say unto this mountain, be removed, and you believe in it 100% and be cast into the sea, that it will be done." And he said, "I have really grabbed a hold of those teachings." And then he began to tell me a story about how he was down to his last $80, and he knew that in the business that he was trying to build, he needed to buy this one particular vehicle at auction. And he did not have the money for it, but he knew that he was supposed to be buying it. He just knew that this was the direction. He was saying, "Look, Lord, I am stepping out in faith, and here is the work that I am doing that illustrates that I am stepping out in faith." And then he goes on to say, tells about how the money came in through a income tax refund that he wasn't expecting. Something that was just seemed so outlandish. The IRS doesn't just refund you money and saying, "Oh, look, we found that you overpaid and now it's time to refund you some money." I mean, this was a really specific answer to prayer. And I thought to myself, how many times do we shortchange God because we're unwilling to put works to the faith, to step out and do the thing that if God doesn't show up, we'll fall flat on our face? Or how many times do we question whether or not God's in something because we cannot see the answer to the problem? Now, if you're not a person of the Christian faith, that's fine, because the principles work regardless. If you say that you have faith in something, but do absolutely nothing in that direction, do you really have the faith at all? No, I didn't freeze there. I wanted to give you just a moment to contemplate that question. If you don't operate a work, some sort of thing, some sort of action in the direction of where you say your faith is, do you really have faith at all? I think it's very interesting that I had this rider at a time where I was like, I'm so tired of driving for Uber. I'm so tired of doing the things that I'm doing. I'm so tired of trying to make it all work out. And then this fella, who is not what we would consider a person of our faith, although I suspect he's leaning very hard in that direction, to come and speak a word in due season. You see, we all go through seasons in life, and sometimes those seasons feel like everything's going right, and sometimes those seasons feel like everything's going wrong. But even in those seasons, we can exercise our faith by taking action in the direction of the faith. Faith without works is dead. Now, it doesn't take works to get in heaven. Again, let's get off of that discussion. But you can show your faith by taking action in the direction that you're supposed to go. God has a purpose and a plan for each and every one of us, and that plan is to impact the world around us in various ways. God has gifted you abilities, skills, talents that you are to use for the furthering, for the impacting, for the changing, for the benefiting of mankind. And if you're not taking action in that direction, I would go out on a limb and say you don't have enough faith. In the same discussion, this very same discussion, this gentleman also said, look, when you look at Peter who walked on the water, it was his faith that walked. He said, Jesus didn't give him an ability beyond anybody else. He just had the faith to take the action, and then God met him at his point of faith. It wasn't until he took his eyes off that he started to sink. It wasn't until he started doubting and reclusing back, if you will, from the faith that he started to sink. And I said, you're right. Sometimes we let circumstances erode our faith, and then we start to sink. The wind and the waves were there all along. It wasn't until he noticed them that he started to sink. So I just want to encourage you today. If you're a person of the Christian faith, and I know a lot of the people who watch and listen to this are, illustrate your faith by action. And if you're not a person of faith, can I challenge you this? Begin to take an action in the direction of your calling, whatever that is, whatever you know within the deep inner parts of you that you're supposed to be doing. Take a defined, specific action in that direction. And let's just see what happens. Because I know this, if faith without works is dead, faith with works is everything we need to do. God bless.